Hi there, I'm James Osborne, the co-founder of the Recruitment Network, and this is the TRN Podcast. Every week, we unpack the strategies, the technologies, the processes and mindsets fueling today's top-performing recruitment agencies. We take a look behind the scenes of some great recruitment businesses, we listen to the real-life stories of those who have built those businesses, and we learn from some of the industry's greatest thought leaders to help you become both future fit and future relevant. So let's begin with this next episode of the TRM Podcast. Okay, cool. Let's get going. With these sessions, I try and keep them as sort of practical and as useful as possible. So what these sessions aren't are sort of round tables where we have lots of chats and stuff. This is me sort of sharing some ideas and some thinking with you more than anything else. So sit back and listen up to what we're going to sort of go through. We will share the slides with you obviously afterwards, and we're recording today's session, so we'll share the recording of it as well. We've also got a whole bunch of tools and guides and blueprints and some AI agents that we built for you as well as part of this process. So we'll get that all sent through to you afterwards if you want to. Obviously, we won't just chuck it at you. So do let us know as we go through the course of the session. But hopefully it'll be quite useful for you, and it'll certainly get you thinking about what it is that you're doing, maybe what you're not doing within your business, and most importantly, what are you going to do to drive growth in 2026 and beyond. So the one thing that you guys all have in common is that, I believe, unless anyone's in the wrong place, is that you're all solo operators, solo entrepreneurs. So it's really important to understand the significance of the solo market at the moment. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of solo entrepreneurs setting up and starting up. And I think it's a really exciting time to be a solo entrepreneur, fundamentally, because small solo businesses, two-person businesses, one-person businesses, etc., have the ability now to transact and behave like five-person businesses. So if you think about that in its crudest sense, if you're naturally a 200k biller, in theory, you could actually start creating the equivalent of £1 million worth of turnover. And I say that genuinely. I'm going to show you examples of that. I'm not just trying to get you excited and think about what could be. This is the stuff that is happening at the moment. So don't ever underestimate the importance of the solo market. It's significantly important, I think. And what I'm going to try and talk to you about today is how do you scale a solo business, and how do you at the same time obviously increase your personal billings without necessarily adding in headcount and everything else that traditionally recruitment companies do to be able to do that. So, and what I'm going to just talk about is this thing called the 10% compound effect. So we look at everything, and you can look at your business in a bunch of different ways. What a lot of people are doing at the moment is they're going, there's a lot of change I need to do. I need to come up with an AI strategy. I need to do this, I need to do that, etc. There's lots of big stuff. At the same time, you're trying to run a bloody business and bill a desk and make money. So there's a lot of things to juggle at the moment. What I'm saying to everyone, especially the solo operators that we have across TRN, is to stop trying to make massive shifts and changes within your business, but instead pick half a dozen areas and find a way in the next 90 days to have a 10% small improvement in each of those half a dozen areas. The compounding impact of doing that creates serious levels of profitability and serious levels of growth. So does that make sense? So rather than doing a massive sweeping change within your business, just let's pick half a dozen areas and go, if I just pick those areas and improve each of those areas by 10% in the next 90-day sprint, that compound that together, it will transform your profitability and your productivity as a business. And by the way, it means you can work less hours or the same hours. It doesn't mean you're working harder or longer hours at all. It just means you're tightening up areas in your business that need to be tightening up now. So we call about this, it's a compounding effect, because you don't need to hire people to grow your recruitment company anymore. You just need to improve the right things in your business that have the biggest impact on your profitability. If you look at a typical solo business, a founder-led solo business, you've got relatively fixed costs within your business. So increasing or improving those multiples, controllable metrics by just 10% creates this non-linear jump in profit and cash flow. So it's hugely important, but often we don't think like this. We just do stuff a bit harder, a bit better to see what comes out the other side. There's a strategy that needs to go sit behind this. It always starts with the data, just to make that clear. Every solo I work with, you need to be really thinking about the data. There's a couple of you on the call, you know I obsess about the data. So important. One of the members, I think they're on the call today actually, has spent the last 3 months traveling the world, working from different places in Sri Lanka and Portugal, these sort of fantastic places. It doesn't matter where you're working and how much fun you're having. At the end of the day, what does matter though is, are you hitting your metrics and your data numbers? And remember, recruitment is an information business. So if you don't understand what drives growth and profitability in your business, you can't then replicate it. And at the same time, if you don't understand what doesn't drive value, what basically wastes time and cash for you, then you risk repeating that on a regular basis. So the data is critical. It always starts with the data. There's lots of dashboards that we produce. This is a very simple, basic dashboard. So I do find some solo operators don't even have these types of dashboards where you're just measuring on a month by month basis your conversion ratios. Nothing more complicated than that. But by measuring your conversion ratios, you can use a tracker like this, and it will just keep you up to scratch with basically how are you tracking against your minimum standards that you set yourself for each month based on your conversion ratios. Again, this is very crude, very basic, works brilliantly well though. If any of you want a copy of it, let me know. We'll send it through to you and you can use it or use a version of this. There's nothing rocket science about this, but at least have something that you're measuring your conversion ratios within your business, because ultimately, if you can just improve one or two of those conversion ratios by 1, 2, 3%, the impact compounded together is significant. Fairly obvious thing to say. Think about the productivity drivers within your business. So what are you measuring? What are you looking at? What's actually moving the needle right now? So think about candidate and customer churn. Think about the conversion levels of your sales funnel. Think about your speed of delivery, your customer lifetime value. I just came off a call with one of the members a second ago where we looked at their numbers around customer lifetime value. They had lost £250,000 last year. Absolutely unbelievable when you sort of think about it, all because they weren't focused on it or weren't focusing on customer lifetime value. So look at some of the different metrics within your business and go, what are they telling me? What am I therefore going to do differently in the next 30, 60, 90 days? So rather than just looking at how many BD calls am I making, or do I need to make, look at how many clients haven't had a call from me in the last 60 days. That gives you a list, a target list of objectives to go and do. Rather than look at the number of new jobs you've added, maybe look at number of jobs that you've added that have had less than 3 interviews in the last week. So again, it forces you to go, right, I've got 7 days to get 3 interviews at each of those jobs, etc., etc. You get the idea. So these aren't just about data for data's sake. These are data to give you something to therefore do differently because of it, what we refer to as productivity drivers. Look at this as an example. Here's a scenario. Let's imagine you put in 20 jobs a year. Your average fee is 10K. You've got a 60% fill rate, takes your average roughly about 30 days average time to fill, and 50% of your time is spent on the admin side of recruitment. So your revenue is coming in probably at around about 120K, something like that. Nice and simple, nice and basic. If you imagine that you focus on 6 places to find a 10% marginal improvement in that business, look what the impact is going to be. So 10% bigger fees. In other words, your average fee has gone up from 10K to 12K. You get 10% better clients and less time wasters. You've got a 10% higher fill rate than you had before, 10% faster delivery time, 10% less admin time that you're spending, so you can spend it more on sales, 10% more cash coming into the business so you can reinvest it, etc., etc., etc. The compound effect of that is significant. In this case, it's 168K's worth of revenue. So you're not doing anything, we're not working harder, not doing anything different. If anything, you're working smarter and less, but you're just tweaking and improving it. And that's why the data and the metrics are so important. Does that all make sense? Nothing complicated about that, but really important to do this. I do find solo operators tend to be a little bit loose around the data and don't think about it as much as they want to. You then set yourself some minimum standards. There is a big difference between that and KPIs or whatever you refer to them as and that type of thing. The good best in class will always have their own minimum standard. I have my own minimum standards. You should have your own minimum standards that you set yourself every month, every week, and you reflect back on those. Are you achieving your minimum standards? Because if you're not, then you're letting things slip. Okay, and that's so important. Okay, KPIs are aspirational. You know, that's what one day would it be lovely if we did that. Irrelevant. What's really important are your minimum standards. No exceptions. You need to create some accountability for yourself, not only about your numbers, but the activity that you're doing as well. So look at this as an example. Imagine your target for this month is 15K. Your average deal size is 5K. You need to do 3 deals. That's the maths, right? There's no rocket science about that, fairly obvious. Then look at your data. What is your current jobs on to deals? So have number of jobs that you bring on, how many of those actually convert into deals made? Let's say it's 4 to 1 based on the last 30 days. Therefore, you know in this particular month, if you want to hit your target, you've got to have a minimum of 12 jobs on at any one time. Fairly obvious, nothing rocket science about that. You get the sort of point. Similarly, number of meetings for jobs on, let's say it's 3 to 1. You know, therefore, your minimum standard, you've got to be doing 9 meetings a week in order for you to hit your sales target. Number of calls you make to meetings, and so it goes on, and so it goes on. So these aren't KPIs or targets to set for yourself. This is where you should wake up every Monday morning and go, right, this week, I have to do a minimum of have 12 July jobs on. I have to make a minimum of have 9 meetings. I have to do a minimum of X number of calls in order to hit my target. Now, obviously, the smart ones will look at that and go, I will do my minimum standards, but at the same time, I'm going to obsess about how do I improve my conversion ratios. You do both, you hit your standards and you improve your conversion ratios. Suddenly, you're no longer hitting 15K, you're now hitting 25K a month. And it's no more complicated than that. But without the data, without the minimum standards, you're sort of shooting fish in a barrel a little bit and you're guessing. I put some questions up here. I'm going to send this through to you afterwards. These are questions I want you to sit down with yourself, look in the mirror, and ask these questions to yourself. It's really good practice. And do it at the beginning of every month if you want to, or certainly at the beginning of every year, every quarter. And it's almost like coaching yourself into what are you going to do and giving yourself a little bit of accountability as much as anything else. Members of TRN, I will obviously poke and prod you, make sure you've got the accountability and you're delivering on your numbers. I've got some of the members now who send me every week their dashboards. They send me their activity reports. So they've got someone to basically push them a little bit and have a little bit more accountability. Use us for that if you need to. That's absolutely fine. I'll also send you afterwards, if you're interested and you like the numbers, this toolkit I created called the Profit Maximizer. It's not very complicated, but it's really incredible, effective. And basically, you just pump in a whole load of numbers from your management accounts or your P&Ls. And then it will help you identify what you need to improve by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, to then at the other end to find a massive significant increase in your numbers. Again, if you want a copy of that, I think Kaylee actually may have put it in the chat already as well, which is great. There's a link to it, but have a look at it, help yourself to that. If you like the numbers, you want to get your head into it, just play with it. You'll see the difference it can make, and then it will just give you an objective or a focus for the next 30 days. And what this is all about is understanding your business, okay? Understanding where, as a solo recruiter, are you actually really making money? Which clients, which processes, what works? And then at the same time, where are you wasting time? Where are you wasting money? And how can we get rid of that stuff? Because ultimately, if you can get rid of the stuff that's wasting it and focus more on the stuff where you're making money, you're going to make a lot more money. So look at all this stuff I've been talking about recently with people. These are either drivers or they're blockers within your business. You're either good at this or you're bad at it. Your average deal size is either good enough or it's poor or it's great. Your sales conversion rates could be better, could be worse. Pipeline deal velocity, etc., etc. Some it's quite basic, some it's quite simple. But imagine if you could just tweak half a dozen of these by 10%. The compounding impact will be huge. Then you pick another 10 for the next, another half a dozen for the next 90-day sprint, and go and work on those. And so it goes on. Make these into drivers of your business. Don't make these into blockers of your business as well. And we've got great examples of this. One of our members, you may know Simon Topsy as we call him, from Addition Solutions. He's been doing a lot of work with us around the product, and he's got a business, teams of people, but we're doing a lot of work around the productivity of his business. And what's been a real eye-opener for him is how easy it is to squeeze and change and up the dials a few times to improve productivity and get more profitability out the back. Okay, and that works for a business of 10 people, 20 people. It works for a solo operator. It works for a company of 500 people. The principle is exactly the same, and that's how I need to think about it. So what I'm going to quickly do today, I'm just going to run you through 7 core metrics to maybe to think about, and then you can take these away with you today and put them into action. If you just pick 2 of them, I don't care, but at least pick a couple of these and do something about it, have a plan, and then put this in place for the next 30 or 60, 90 days. I picked these 7 in particular because all of them are fully within your control. So you can influence this straight away. They are leverage led rather than labor led. So it's not about doing more with more people. It's about leveraging what you've already got. And they are strongly compounding. When you add these together, the impact is significant. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 3. And that's quite exciting. So I'm going to run through these. 7 I'm going to focus on very quickly for today. Your average fee, average deal value. The client quality mix, so in other words, better clients with less distractions, your sales conversion rates and your ratios from meetings to jobs to fees, your time to fill rates and your delivery speed, your candidate reuse rates, so using candidates as an asset that you can make more money out of, your admin and non-billable time that's being removed, and then your cash velocity. I always want to focus on the cash at the last one, just to make sure you've got cash in the bank and you're using your cash effectively to drive growth within your business. So there's 7 core metrics. That's what we're going to quickly touch on. And also by the end of today, I want you to pick out a couple of those and go for it with each of these with a bit of a strategy. I won't go heavy with these. I'm just going to touch on them, just give you a bit of an idea. Metric number 1, your average fee, your average deal value. So what the focus is, how do we increase that by 10%? So whatever your average deal size is today, that company I was with today, their average deal size was 3.5K, quite low. So, okay, well, let's just get that up by 10%. So let's get that up to maybe 3,850 type thing. What impact will that have? Well, basically based on the number of placements they made last year, that will generate an additional 30, 40, 50,000 pounds for them off the bat. And all we're doing is just increasing the average deal size. Now, easier said than done, So you then go, well, what's the strategy? How do we get the average deal size, whatever yours is today, up by 10% in the next 90 days? And we can look at all sorts of things that you can do around that based on the types of roles that you're recruiting, your relationships with the clients, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're going to share with you loads of ideas afterwards about how to do all these things in detail, but think a little bit about that. One of the things we talk a lot about in our productization program are the types of products that you're selling, the types of products you're taking to market. There is zero doubt in my mind that solo operators that are absolutely flying at the moment are the ones who have built a different type of product suite that they're taking to market. They have multiple products. It's not just contingent perm recruitment anymore. They've got embedded solutions. They've got mini RPOs, all sorts of things. And you can absolutely deliver that now as a solo operator, which is great, providing your products are solving those problems that you see on the left-hand side, which are the problems your customers are facing. So look at our productization work, understand a bit about the types of things that you're taking to market, and think about how you're increasing your average deal size based on the types of products that you're taking to market. If the majority of your relationships with clients are embedded or retained, your average deal size naturally goes up. If it's contingent, it naturally goes down, fairly sort of obvious. And selling your products, and again, I don't want to do a spoiler alert. If you want to go onto that productization course and help yourself to that, it really, really works. The basic is very simple. You go to market with 4 or 5 products to your clients. The further to the right they go, which is more the embedded stuff and the more partnerships type of stuff, products, it's cheaper for them to do so. They save money, which is good for your clients. So it's a compelling reason for them to use you. But your service offering goes up the more they're embedded with your customers, and the success rates of you filling the jobs with greater people goes up as well. It's an absolute bloody no-brainer. So in this type of market, to sell better business, non-contingent, more retained, embedded type partnership business is so easy if you understand the process to do so. If any of you want the productization kit, let me know, give us a yes in the chat, and I'll send it across to you, and we'll show you examples of the sorts of stuff that people are selling at the moment, solo operators are taking to market at the moment and winning at the moment as well. And it will blow your mind based on some of the stuff that you could be getting your hands on, which I think is really quite exciting. Obviously, the Pinnacle program is a little bit part of that. It's about a different product suite that you can take to market where you're getting 35% margins as opposed to 18% margins. Again, go back to the average deal size. Imagine if your average margin was 35% rather than 18%. Just work out the maths of how much money you would have made in 2025 if that was the case. It's quite a big difference. Metric number 2, better clients, not necessarily more clients, but if your clients improve, the quality improved by 10%, what would happen to your sales, etc. This is about having less clients, having less low quality clients, and better relationships with our clients, as we sort of talked about before, increasing that higher net contribution per client. This comes down to your sales process. If you've been on any of my BD stuff, you know you've heard me talk about this before. Just remember, I'm not going to go into detail about sales today, but just remember, sales is an art and it's a science. You need to be bloody good at both. It's as simple as that in this market. And whilst the core principles of B2B sales actually haven't changed at all, so all this stuff is still true today as it was 25 years ago, that sales is a numbers game. People need to trust you, etc., etc., etc. All these core principles you're seeing on the screen. One thing we do know for sure is the wrapping has definitely changed. So the way we do sales has changed because the way your customers buy has changed, and we need to keep up with that. It's so important. So look at the wrapping, the processes, how you're doing your sales activity, and think about, is it fit for purpose? Is it keeping up to date? And is it relevant to the way your customers want to buy from you? We're seeing some brilliant examples of this, and you'll see this in all the playbooks that we've created of different ways of doing business development right now. This is not just about banging the phones, making as many cold calls as you can. Yes, it's about doing lots of activity. Yes, it's about doing lots of the right activity. But there's better ways of doing calling. There's better ways of doing client meetings. There's better ways of doing social media conversions, etc., etc. So think about the wrapping, how it's changed. Think about the processes that you're doing. And think about this simple question: is how can you get your ICP, your ideal customer profile, to want to buy from you, as opposed to how you're going to sell to your ideal customer profile? There's a big difference. Your customers want to buy from you. They don't want to be sold to. Simple as that. So how do we engage them to want to come and buy from us? And there's a really important process, part of the sales channel we talked about, as you would have seen. This is the sales process. You've all got your sales strategy, I'm sure. If you haven't, use ours and have one built in. It's a multi-channel process. It's all about adding value to your customers to drive them down through the sales channel. It's about having maximum visibility, so people, you are front of mind with all your customers, and it's about doing it at scale, volume and velocity. That's where AI comes in and plays its part as well, building sales agents to do stuff for you. But it's an omni-channel, multi-channel. Half of it's outbound, half of it's inbound. The outbound stuff is all the stuff you're seeing on the screen here, the stuff you should be good at. Pick 3 or 4 of those, work out the best way of doing those in this type of market, and then be bloody brilliant at doing them consistently and brilliantly well. At the same time, make sure you've got an inbound strategy as well, which is all this stuff, and pick half a dozen of these and make sure you've got a strategy for each of these as well. So basically, your sales strategy should be a blend of inbound and outbound, but you need to be doing each of them really, really bloody well, each of these different channels really, really well. So you have a nice inbound and outbound channel strategy. That could be a blend of any of these things that you're seeing on the screen here today. And you'll see this in the playbooks. You'll see the guides to all of it. I can show you how to do Instagram brilliantly, or cold calling brilliantly, or advertising brilliantly, or reverse marketing brilliantly, whatever it is, how to build proper partner relationships to drive traffic into your sales funnel. It doesn't matter what you pick, but what matters is you do it brilliantly well and with some minimum standards at the same time as well. And remember, the reason why we talk about this and some of these different ways of selling is think about your target audience, those ICPs. What do they really want to talk to you about right now? What are their priorities right now? Just randomly specking out a candidate is not necessarily going to solve all of these problems that your customers have. And this list here, in order, are what HR professionals are saying are their biggest priorities right now. So think about that. What are you doing to add value to your customers around these different things? Because these are the things that are keeping them awake at night. These are the things that will get you traction and conversion on social media. These are the things that will get them to open your emails and your in-mails because it's interesting to them. Just you specking a candidate to me won't necessarily work. Does that make sense? So think about your strategy, have a strategy, put it into place. And if you need one, as I said before, we'll send you the playbooks, all this type of stuff. It's free to use, guys. There's no cost for this. We just need you to have a plan so you can drive the strategy. You can't build an AI automation process unless you've got the strategy in the first place to build around it, and so on and so forth. So metric number 3, your conversion rates, fairly obvious, improving those by 10%. So making sure when you look at your conversions, what are you doing? Maybe to get better meetings, clearer qualifications, stronger control of the process, clearer calls to actions as well, and so on and so forth. We want to make sure we're improving our conversions. I'd rather you made 10 client meetings a month and converted 90% of them into deals, good value deals, good business, than doing 100 client meetings a month and closing 1%. So fairly obvious thing to say, but think about the quality of what it is that we're doing. Metric number 4 is maybe your time to fill rate. As we know, the quicker you do it, time does kill deals, always has done, etc. So your delivery rate, your time means you've got better clients, you've got happier clients. Happier clients means more work, more referrals, more repeat business, etc., etc. So fairly obvious. So think about your process around how you're increasing your time to fill time by an additional 10%. And that also aligns to your candidate reuse rate as well, improving that by 10%. So rather than just placing a candidate and then that's it, think how many times in a candidate's lifetime, temp, contract and perm, are you reutilizing, replacing that candidate? Imagine they're like an asset that you're reusing within your business. And what's your current rate and how do you increase that by 10%? And again, we've got some great stuff on this. This is a fantastic document that's been created by the team, which is basically the ultimate candidate pool playbook. If you want a copy of it, again, give us a yes in it, and it will show you how to use your candidates as an asset, a valuable asset that you can reuse to help you win more business, to get more repeat business, more referrals, recommendations, etc., etc. And it just drives up that reuse rate and that time to fill rate significantly. So it's all the work's been done in here for you. All the guides are in there how to do it. If you want it, let us know. We'll ping it across to you afterwards, and you can use that. But again, it's just another area of your business. 10% improvement, massive, massive impact. I mean, in that program and in that playbook, we talk about your core placements, your silver medalists, your PPCs, your future movers, and the sort of scarce niche skill areas. They're your different sort of pools that you need to have a strategy for each of those pools, how you're going to reutilize them moving forward. And then you measure the effectiveness of them. So how do I get faster shortlists, fewer sourcing hours per role, higher conversion rates, better acceptance rates, lower cost per placement, more predictable forecasting. Imagine all these things improving by 5-10%. The impact it will have on your placement ratios, massive. We can show you how to do it, just get on and do it and set yourself a target, a goal for the next 30-60 days. And again, here's some examples of this. Look at this. 90 days, in the next 90 days, if you did a 10% improvement across these areas that we talked about before, but the ones I've highlighted, a 10% improvement in each of these areas gives you a total 18 to 20% improvement on performance across your whole business. So think of the numbers and think of the impact that will have. 20% uplift in your revenue in the next 90 days is significant when you sort of think about it. Okay. Last two metrics, admin and non-billable time. So this is obviously the amount of time that you're spending doing recruitment admin. The way I look at it is basically your business is paying a top fee earner, i.e. you, real high rates to do basically low value work, what I call the light bulb moments. And you're there basically changing light bulbs for people type stuff. Think about this is your AI strategy 101, right? This allows you to free you up to do your best work in excellence. So look at all the repeatable tasks within your business, automate them where you can use AI to do it for you, or use AI to supplement or support or superpower what it is that you're doing as well. Those of you done in my AI sessions, get involved with this. This for me as a solo recruiter, my gosh, this is just such a brilliant way for you to act like a 10-person recruitment company overnight. Think about what you're going to automate, what you're going to keep human. Think about those 5-second, 5-minute tasks. That you could be focusing on, and just focusing on how I'm going to use AI to do those for me. Think about your AI buckets. So what am I going to automate? What am I going to keep human, as in you doing it, and maybe an offshore partner if you have them? And then what am I going to augment? Well, how am I going to use AI to supercharge and superpower what it is I'm already doing? You can use our Project Automate toolkit if you're interested in that. I've mapped out a recruitment company of basically all the things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, and therefore what are the things that you can now use AI to do instead for you. So if you want copies of that, let me know. We've got lots of members using Project Automate. It's bloody brilliant, and it means you stop wasting and spending money on shiny new things, and you build a proper AI strategy that delivers and converts, which is what it's all about ultimately, as much as anything else. Think about what you're doing with AI within your business currently. I presume you're all doing this anyway. If you're not, you're probably archaic and way past it. Not a bit rude. But these are the basics. Everyone's doing this stuff now. So I'm presuming you're all doing this stuff, and you've got AI agents doing everything for you type stuff. I was thinking with I remember the other day, we built about 20 lead generation agents for them who do different things. I use one quick example. I'll just share the story with you very quickly. We built a lead agent that generates leads for them, and this is a fairly reasonable sized business. And what the lead agent does is identifies the hiring triggers of their target customers. So we told it who their target customers are, and it basically looks for hiring triggers, so moments that happen within their business that will let us know that they're probably going to be hiring in the next 30, 60, 90 days. One of them that we built literally looked at office leases in a particular geographical location. Now, it sounds bizarre, but case in point, one of the members over in Northern Ireland, we told them that one of their clients is about to go on a hiring spree. And they said, how do you know that? I said, because I've just found out through my agent, I've been notified that this particular client has just signed on a new 200-person office space in central Belfast. They've only got 80 staff in Belfast. So obviously they're going to be going hiring. Now, we know that 90 days 6 months before they're going to actually start the hiring process, because they're moving into this new office. We picked up the phone to them and said, basically, I imagine you're probably going to be hiring. I've already moved into a new office, and they're now picking up jobs off the back of it. Can you see how that works? So that's an AI agent just thinking about your client to go and generate me leads every single day, feed me leads to save me time so I can spend more time out in front of customers. And we've got examples and examples of members now, solo members, who have built really cool dashboards using AI, where they're sharing data with their members, with their customers on a regular basis. In this particular case here, you can charge for it. Some of you would have heard me talk about this before, where you're selling your data as a sort of data as a service, I suppose. We've got some members now charging £500 a month over a 12-month contract to their customers to access this data and this insights. And the data and insights are all coming out of the AI agents they've built. This is one of the members over in Australia. This is their dashboard that they've built. I've just covered up the name so you don't see who they are for their confidentiality. But this dashboard you can build in seconds. I mean, it's really simple with AI. And to prove that, I was at an event last week down in Southampton with a bunch of the members. And I said to them, I bet I can build anything you want in AI. And they went, rubbish. And they said, all right, give me something to build. And live, and one of them said to me, can you build LinkedIn? I thought, oh, bugger it. But then live in front of them, I actually built LinkedIn. So I use a toolkit, and I actually built LinkedIn. And this is what it is. This is what it looks like. This is now live. And this LinkedIn framework that you see here is a live LinkedIn. It does exactly what LinkedIn does. And we've channeled it down specifically for the HR, because that person worked in the HR market. You can create this in 15 minutes for free with no cost whatsoever, and you can now own this own little community platform yourself. Now, you imagine that as a recruiter, building up your own network within your own market on this platform, like your own version of LinkedIn. You can start charging for it if you want, and do what you want to do. These guys now have a copy of this, and they've got jobs being advertised on it and all sorts of things. It's insane what you can do with AI, but that's the sort of thing that you can do with AI. Now, I'm not suggesting you all go and build LinkedIn. You can if you want, but we did. We did it in 15 minutes live.
We called it HR Connect, and it's now a live and living and breathing platform that they're now going to use with their customer base. So think of the power behind this. This is sort of pretty exciting. That's some of the stuff we're going to talk about in Traction, this AI coaching program I'm running in March for you guys. And then the last one just to touch on is cash velocity. Imagine you're improving your cash velocity by 10%. In other words, how quickly you're getting your cash in your business. Fairly obvious thing to say, but really, really important. Your cash is your lifeblood. Your vanity metrics are all your turnover and all that sort of stuff. The real stuff is the sanity metrics are your cash and your profit. So think about your cash, think about your cash generation, think about the types of business that you're doing and you're using in order to generate more cash within your business. So you can reinvest that either in yourself or in your company or whatever you want to do with it, but create that cash velocity as much as you possibly can. I've got a framework that I've built. We went through this the other day in a program I've run, which is about how to improve your cash flow and win more money, basically actual physical cash. The core framework is called the cash flow model. It's all about cash visibility, your actual profitability, headroom and risk, etc., etc., etc. So if you want information about that, I'll share with you a sort of guide that I've created that aligns with a cash flow planner. Hopefully you've all got cash flow planners in place. If you haven't, let me know. I'll just send you ours, and you can use this. But it will just keep you a real clear track on. I find a lot of solo operators have got P&Ls that they're looking at, but they don't reflect their cash flow. They're two very, very different things. So make sure you're on top of your cash flow, please. If you want a cash flow planner, we'll ping that across to you. And then also goes alongside that is a cash flow sprint plan for 30 days, which are basically ideas, things that you could do to increase cash within your business in 30 days. And it works. It's really, really good. Simple example, we had one of the members who was having trouble with cash flow. And one of the things that we did on their contract and their terms, we just changed it to, rather than invoice on placement, invoice on start date, we just changed it to invoice on acceptance date. And overnight, their cash flow changed. Most of their clients didn't mind. They carried on paying for it absolutely fine. Another member was doing a lot of stuff in sales, but they were only charging out on the basic salary, not the full remuneration package. So we got to change that in the terms. And now 50% of their business is now, the deal size is based on the full remuneration package, not just on the basic salaries. You get the idea. Okay, cool. So hopefully that's given you some things to think about, and hopefully some quite useful tools to sort of think about. Have a framework. Use our accelerator framework if you want to create a plan. So you've got a plan for your year, so you can hold yourself accountable. We can hold you accountable against. You've got your 90-day sprint against each of the different things that we're sort of talking about. The accelerator looks a little bit like this in detail, so you can see the more information. And we'll be sharing with you the accelerator insights, so you know what you can do, what everyone else is doing, and how to do it brilliantly within your business. So we'll give you all the cheat sheets. And then to set yourself a 90-day plan in very simple terms. Next 30 days, you might be identifying all the profit leaks within your business, removing and automating all your low-value tasks, and then building your AI-powered RevOps engine, your sales and marketing engine. So imagine you just did that in the next 30 days. What difference that makes to your business overnight? You could throw an extra 10% improvement in your revenue overnight. Second month, think about your candidate and client penetration, tighten your conversion and delivery metrics, and then maybe take some new products to market, which are a little bit more recurring revenue or embedded. Month 3, lock in more repeatability, build momentum without more hours, so driving those minimum standards up. Look at maybe some of your talent pooling exercise, etc. You get the idea. So the idea is build a sprint plan, break it down, focus on what you're going to do, set some targets around it, and bloody well go and deliver on those. Because a quick 10% improvement here and there, compounded together, makes a huge impact to your business overnight. And that's the key to all this type of stuff. You don't scale by adding people anymore in a recruitment company. You can do, but that's not how you do it. You certainly start and you certainly scale by removing the friction within your business. So these are small marginal improvements, 10% here and there, but added together, the compounded effect is significant. And that's how you can go from whatever you are at the moment, 120, 150K biller, to maybe a 300, 400K biller. Those extra couple of $100,000, bar the issues we have with our tax man and everything else, you can do a lot with that personally for yourself and for your business as well. If you need any help with this, as always, come and join. If you're not a member of TRN, come and join us as one of our solo members. We'd love to welcome you alongside our Plus and our Club members as well. And anything that you need that we've talked about today, we can help you with. Very, very happy to share it. The point of today is just to remind you that you can be a really good small recruitment business, a solo operator, and you could be billing at the same level as a 5, 6, 7-person recruitment company. You get that piece right, just think about the impact it will make to your business. It's not about working longer hours. Many of you chose to be a solo operator quite simply because you're enjoying the lifestyle that comes with it. Carry on enjoying that lifestyle, just make more money out of it.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the TRN podcast. Thank you for listening. And make sure you grab the free episode toolkit. All the links are in the description. And click follow in your podcast app so you can get notified of our next episode. If you want to get more out of your business and your people, then please unlock 30 days from our platform, TRM World, for free. And help yourself to all our training content, our guides, our templates, and peer insights. You can get started at trmworld.com/trial. And finally, if you found this episode of the TRM podcast of use, please share it with your network and tag TRN on any socials with your takeaways. Otherwise, message us directly if we can help in any way. We do reply to every question. Otherwise, we'll see you next week on the next TRM podcast.